in no hurry for ceasefire, Putin demands numerous Ukrainian concessions. President Vladimir Putin of Russia Thursday did not rule out a U.S. and Ukrainian proposal for a month-long ceasefire, but he set numerous conditions that would most likely delay any truce or could make one impossible to achieve. Putin's comments during a news conference highlighted the balance he was trying to strike, exuding confidence in Russia's position on the battlefield while seeking to continue talks with the United States to avoid upsetting President Trump. The U.S. president, having antagonized the country's allies and realigned American foreign policy in Russia's favor, has emerged as a key geopolitical partner for Putin. In sharp remarks later in the day, President Zelensky of Ukraine said the Russian leader has set so many conditions that nothing will work out at all, or that it will not work out for as long as possible. Putin's comments came before his meeting with Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy, to discuss the ceasefire proposal that Ukraine had already agreed to, and they came to Russia, keep up its momentum to the key battle in the Kursk region of Russia, where Moscow's forces appeared close to pushing Ukraine out of the territory it seized last summer. Now, the idea itself is the right one, and we definitely support it, Putin said, referring to the ceasefire proposal, but there are questions that we need to discuss, and I think that we need to talk them out through with our American colleagues and partners. Putin suggested that his conditions would include limits to Ukraine's ability to mobilize more troops and import weaponry during the ceasefire. Restrictions would put Kiev at a deeper disadvantage if the fighting restarted. Putin's comments were the first about the ceasefire offer that emerged from negotiations between the United States and Ukraine and Saudi Arabia this week. They suggested that the Russian leader viewed that proposal as just a part of the broader negotiation between Washington and Moscow, that he was eager to show that he was engaging with Trump's efforts to end the war that Putin began with his full-scale conflict 3 years ago. But Putin said he might have a call with President Trump and talk it over with him, person to person. When asked later on Thursday if he would speak with the Russian president, Trump said he would love to meet and talk with him. We'd like to see a ceasefire from Russia, Trump told reporters while meeting with the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in the Oval Office. Trump said the United States had discussed with Ukraine possible concessions as part of a peace agreement. We've been discussing with Ukraine land and pieces of land that would be kept and lost, and all of the other elements of the final agreement, Trump said, adding that a lot of the details of the final agreement have actually been discussed. Putin appears keen to stay on Trump's good side, given the geopolitical victories that the U.S. president has already delivered for the Kremlin. But Putin's comments also showed that Russian leaders saw his forces as having the upper hand, and that it would be to Russia's advantage to draw out the negotiations. He said on Thursday that Russia would continue to insist on a peace deal that addressed the original causes of the war, suggesting that his push for major Western concessions, such as reduction of NATO's presence in Eastern Europe, had not changed, though it was not clear if he would make them a stipulation for a month-long ceasefire. Zelensky called Putin's response to the ceasefire proposal very predictable and manipulative. Putin, of course, is afraid to tell Trump directly that he wants to continue this. Putin was straightforward in declaring that the quick truce would be better for Ukraine than for Russia. And then he listened to those nuances starting the Ukrainian forces still in Kursk. He said that Russia would not allow those troops to peacefully withdraw, and that Ukrainian leadership could instead order them to simply surrender. Ukraine stunned Russia in August with a cross-border incursion to Kursk. Now, Putin also suggests he might demand that Ukraine's Western allies halt arms deliveries to Ukraine, and said it was not clear how the ceasefire would be monitored along a front line of some 700 miles. These are all questions demanding very careful study, he said. And while Putin's conditions may be impossible for Ukraine to accept, he did not repeat his onerous demand from last year that the ceasefire would depend on Ukraine's withdrawal from the 4 Ukrainian regions that Russia declared as its own. Now, in effect, still Dara Misikot, Russia's military specialist at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, which is based in Washington, called Putin's new demands very dangerous for Ukraine. She said Putin was pushing for a scenario in which the West would not be able to help Ukraine rebuild its armed forces while Russia factories pumped out new weaponry. What Putin said today implies the West cannot support Ukraine while Russia regenerates, she said. This is from New York Times on DNYUZ. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.